Good morning everybody. Here we are at the start of Pathfinder's Building Blocks Part 2. My name's Ian Gray, for those of you that have met me before. And I know a lot of you off the first course, off various things around, but if you're new, I'm glad to meet you, albeit over the airwaves rather than in person. However, these are strange times we're living in. Now, Pathfinder's Building Blocks 2 is going to be called Modal Magic. Modes, modal music is what we're going to have a look at and have a explore of. Now, over the years, I've encountered an awful lot of overcomplicated twaddle spoken about modes. So what I want to do is to go right back to basics and to explain to you what modes are, what the function is, and how we can learn to hear them in the music we listen to, and how we can learn to use them in the improvisations that we do or compositions that we do. I know some of you had a fantastic time doing some compositions in the previous little course that you did with Josh. So, having different things in your virtual toolkit that I always talk about, different skills that you've got. Now, we call this course Building Blocks because personally I don't like the word theory. I think theory, music theory that we talk about, is really only how music's put together. And I was saying to somebody just yesterday that there was things that I did 50 years ago in my grade 5 theory exam that I have never used since. And all my work in life, I've been in music and music education. So, let's not talk about theory, let's talk about building blocks. Let's talk about how we put this music together. So here we go, we're talking about modes now. Now it might help you to have document 1 to start with. Basically, modes are a series of notes within one key area that give you different sounds and different feelings and a whole different feel to the music. We talk about major and minor and atonal music, but all too often we don't talk about modal music. Okay? Now, modal music's everywhere. As I put on the notes here, it's in folk music, secular folk music, secular meaning not to do with the church. So it's in secular folk music, popular music, Western classical music, whatever we want to, encompass in that great big classification, and also in sacred, to do with the church music, right back to medieval times. If you listen to or watch a film, when there's all sort of Robin Hood going on, all sorts of things going on, they'll use this modal music to give you the feel of that time. Now then, what are we talking about when we talk about modes? Right, if we take the scale of C major, we're all well aware of that. I'm doing it on the piano in C so you can see what's going on. So, C major, all the white notes from C to C, and that is the major scale. Tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. The major scale. Now, we call that the Ionian mode. Right? That's another name for the major scale. The Ionian mode. Now, if we were to start on the 2nd degree of the scale and go to the 9th, that's called the Dorian mode. Just like it says here. The 3rd degree of the scale, that's called the Phrygian mode. Now have you noticed that these are just the major scale but starting in a different place and going in octave, but all the tones and semitones are in a different order. The Lydian mode starts on the 4th degree of the scale. The Mixolydian mode starts on the 5th degree. The Aeolian mode, sometimes called the natural minor, starts on the 6th degree of the scale. And the Locrian mode starts on the 7th and goes to the 7th, the octave above. Yeah? Now then, you can see from the sheet how that's laid out and what it means. And of course, you can do this in any key. Yeah? So the Dorian mode doesn't start on a D, it starts on the 2nd degree of the scale. The Mixolydian starts on the 5th degree of the scale and goes up for 1 octave using the notes of that key, of that scale, right? Which is very important because we need to say, if we're using the Dorian mode, you know, that we've got here, we would call that the Dorian on D. The Dorian on D, or the Mixolydian on G, rather than in, because that means something different. Let's not overcomplicate things, right? The Dorian on D. And that's what we're going to use first of all. We're going to use the Dorian on D. Yeah? And we're going to talk about the uses of the Dorian scale and how it sounds and where we use it and all that kind of thing. Okay? So, as is always the case in what I do, you now need your instruments. So get yourself your instruments and get organised, ready to play, because in video 2 we're going to have a go at playing a piece in, or based on, the Dorian on D concert. I'll give you your transpositions, don't worry about that. Okay, so get your instruments, get organised, see you in the next video. Alright, nice one.